Hello and good evening. This is Nerd Talk. My name is Sam. I work here at the Hoover Public Library, and I have a lot of fun doing it. Nerd Talk is a show where I get together my friends and we talk about things that we think we know everything about. Our topic tonight is thrills and chills, and we will be talking about some of our favorite scary, spooky, and slightly silly media. I'm joined this evening by my good friend Stratton, who works in our circulation department and is a knower of all things creepy. And I'm also joined by my Madeline for the second time, a recurring Nerd Talk guest, who is also into all things spooky. Do you guys want to jump in and introduce yourselves since I just introduced you?
You just did.
Far out. All right, cool. That sums it up. They're my friends, and that's the most important thing about them. So tonight we just want to kind of talk about some different aspects of things that we like watching in horror movies or things that we really hate watching. We're going to try not to bash other people's creative efforts, but some stuff just ain't great. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Our first category here is scary. So Webster says that scary is frightening, causing fear, uncannily striking, or surprising. So for this one, we kind of stuck to things that just kind of really bother us. What is scary to different people is going to be very subjective. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing about what creeps my friends out so that I can now scare them and jump out of closets and stuff. My picks for scary media. I went with The Stand, all renditions of The Stand. Fantastic piece of literature if you've never read it. The premise is there is a super flu that takes out a large percent of the population, which may strike home for a lot of us. And there are two factions. The good guys set up in Boulder and the bad guys set up in Vegas and have a really great time. And that's just kind of that is all I can tell you about The Stand. Super flus are a very scary thing for me, and escaping from New York sounds terrible. I will save our discussion of Saw for later because I know that Madeline has some hot takes about it. Tender is the Flesh is a book that I read this year on recommendations of one of my coworkers. Not super sure why he thought I would like to read this book. It is about a post-apocalyptic dystopian situation where we have not been able to use traditional livestock as our source of protein, and so we have gone to a more familiar livestock for that. And it's just a really horrifying book. I read it in one sitting and was absolutely horrified the entire time, and reading sections out to my housemate who was really asking me to stop the whole time. It's a very unsettling book. American Horror Story, strong fan. Could not, there is something of value in every single season, even Apocalypse. And The Hills Have Eyes. One of my favorite things about The Hills Have Eyes that's so unsettling is that it's kind of loosely based around real events. I don't know if we have radiation mutants hanging out in the West, but I do know that it could happen because they did a lot of testing out there, and that's a fun thing to deep dive in if you're ever just like into terrible things that have happened in American history. So those are my picks for that. Madeline, go ahead.
All right. So my horror scary picks. I have the Conjuring universe. I am not a big movie universe fan, but The Conjuring has been a pleasant surprise. Anything with Ed and Lorraine Warren, and like you were saying, Sam, about it being, The Hills Have Eyes being loosely based on events. You see that too in the Conjuring universe with the paranormal investigators. So I really like the storylines, and I like that we're getting a lot of history and lore throughout the series. I just saw The Nun 2, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. So start to finish, I liked the picture I grabbed there, which is the timeline. So I know Star Wars people usually you can watch Star Wars in two different ways. So I think I'm going to have to do a rewatch of all of the Conjuring films. And then also, I have some graphic novels on there. Anything by Junji Ito. That's the top one with the swirly face and the cat with the creepy eyes in its mouth. And then the picture right underneath that is a grab from a graphic novel series called PTSD Radio. And it is legitimately creepy because it's read in manga fashion. So when you're flipping the pages, there's something scary, like horrifying on the very next page. It's very unsettling. And then I have some of my favorites that are on here, of course, The Exorcist. Um, it took me a very long time to be able to watch that, just because possession is something, horror is subjective. Possession really, really freaks me out. Hereditary is really good for parent-child relationship and mental health. It's a psychological horror. It's got some jump scares. It's probably in my top 5. I've got Jaws, creature feature, gotta watch it every year. And then Night of the Living Dead, of course, one of the great and the earliest zombie movies. So I really love that one. Social commentary, anything in the horror genre that can do that and cover all of the bases. I think it's a great film. So those are my picks.
I have a question
Yeah.
about your Jaws thing.
Yeah.
Does this extend to other creature features? Does it extend to other shark movies? And what are your thoughts on the Meg?
I haven't seen the Meg, so I can't speak to that. But a lot of these things that scare me are very subjective, as in they are things that scared me either when I was little or they still unnerve me. So we had a pool. And I wore glasses. So if I didn't have my glasses on or at least goggles on, I was terrified to go underwater with my eyes open because Jaws, there could be a shark in my pool. You don't know.
I actually had something similar, but not at all, really. When I was a kid, my grandparents really liked Tremors. And I don't know if my mom's watching right now, but if she is, she's dying out laughing right now. Tremors absolutely horrified me as a kid. And like now I know that it's a silly movie. That it's kind of like a creature feature spoof. But I still don't do worms. It's like Stratton and I were talking about this earlier today. Like I still like we do not do worms. We do not do underground dwellers, trimmers. Like I think sometimes the things that we're exposed to as a kid, it's like, no, I've made up my mind. That is not a funny movie. That
And
is
that movie I will never watch again. I
yeah,
watched it several times as a child, and it freaked me out so much that
yeah.
even though I know now that it's a silly B movie, whatever, never again.
I am horrified that one day I will be sitting on a tire and a denizen of underground possible alien origin will suck me through the bottom of the tire. And it's such an irrational fear, but like that stuff stays with you, you know. You know Jaws wasn't in your swimming pool, but like was
Yeah,
it
and I
though?
I think that's what it is. It's either it swings on both sides for me. It's either this absolutely cannot happen, and then the other side is this could happen. Like this is legitimately scary. So yeah.
Word. By the way, viewers at home, if you have things that you want us to riff about, or if there is something that maybe you thought was scary as a kid and you want to talk about it, or anything that you want to throw out, feel free to drop it in the comments. We'll pop your comment up on the screen and we will, talk about it, because I'm certain that there are things that fell outside of our slideshow, because all three of us really had a hard time picking what things were actually going to make it, because this is kind of all we watch.
Yep.
Cool. Moving right along. Stratton, terrify us.
So yes, and just like you were saying just a second ago, this was a very difficult process for me, separating and categorizing all of these films, books, TV shows, because for me, a lot of these, if not all of them, incorporate scary, spooky, silly, sometimes dark humor. So what I did for my scary picks, I chose films that resonated with me because of certain scenes, whether they be jump scares or kind of gory scenes, something that kind of something that created a visceral reaction in me. So The Descent from 2005, it is fantastic. Watch it if you have not watched it. Watch it for the first time with the lights out, but totally by yourself, and it is totally immersive. It's a group of women that go cave diving, end up finding creatures that they don't really want to have anything to do with. But what really got to me was the claustrophobia of it all. Literally, 90% of the movie is inside a cave, inside these tiny, tiny tunnels, and the combination of that and the creatures that you come to find later on in the movie, it just was fantastic. And there were several jump scares as well that were decently placed. They didn't take away anything from the story, and that's what I really appreciated about that. Same with Smile. I thought it was a great film all around, but it had fantastic jump scares that just were very effective, and I applaud that in that film. Gerald's Game, if you guys have not seen that, or if you haven't read the book, there is a particular scene towards the end that is absolutely terrifying, that will make you sick to your stomach, and it's I won't give anything away, but it is a person who is chained to her bed, trying to become unchained, and it's what happens when she is trying to be unchained that really gets to you. And that really, again, fantastic film, but that one scene in particular really made it for me. What else do I like? It Follows. Have you guys seen It Follows?
Yeah.
Yeah. So fantastic.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, do you mean that because you didn't like it?
I did not.
Well,
it actually falls into a category of movies that I don't really dig, and that's the cursed teenager must figure out problem on timeline. So like that whole trend of movies, I used to get really into it, and then I watched 3 of them and I was like, oh, this is the same with just like different settings. But
yeah,
I will not bash on what you like, because you did not bash on what I like. So.
And I understand what you're saying totally. For me, it was just the vibe. It felt like a throwback to Halloween, Friday the 13th, kind of grittier 70s, early 80s horror. And so that's what I really appreciated about that one. And it had some fantastic, surprising scares along the way. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one that stands out for me in this list because it is brutal from beginning to end. Like, there is no let up, and there's not much of a story there. You go in, you're experiencing it as the main characters and the victims are experiencing it, and it is just a brutal movie. And I have a fun little story. The first time that I saw it was actually 10 years ago, at the Alabama Theater. They were screening it, I think, as part of the Sidewalk Film Festival. And I went there alone, and 2 or 3 rows ahead of me, there was someone wearing a Leatherface mask, but they were wearing it backwards. So the entire time that I was watching the movie, Leatherface was staring at me, and it was the greatest experience of my life, seriously.
I used to work in a movie theater, and I don't know if it ever actually happened, because you know how some like workplace lore will just develop. But I do know that we kept a leaf blower in the closet. It was a tiny little rinky leg fourplex in the town that I grew up in, and we would use the leaf blower after shows to like blow all the garbage to the front, and then you sweep it up and out the door. I do not think that this is best practices, and I will not share what our health score rating was because it was low. Um, However, there was a like an urban legend that whenever they screened one of the more I don't know, it closed 10 years ago, so it had to have been, you know, in the early aughts, the Texas Chainsaw that came out then. Um, One of the guys who worked there put on a leather face mask and ran through the movie theater running full blast on that leaf blower. And and so it was just like this urban legend that they had done this thing. And I was like, well, who was it? And they would never give a name. So I don't know if it really happened, but that wouldn't play as well in our social climate. But it if it happened, it is a hysterical concept.
Amazing. And then what else do I have? It, clowns. That's just Pennywise. I will say this: I specifically chose It Chapter 1 because I could not stand It Chapter 2. It just and I don't even know if it was. It might have been. I feel like they wasted some of the actors' talents in the second film, but the first film, it was just fantastic. Bill Skarsgård was amazing as Pennywise. And then Goodnight Mommy, if you have not heard of it or seen it, I can't remember where it is from. It is a foreign film though, about twins living with their mother who has recently had some type of facial reconstruction surgery. The twins start to believe that something has happened to the mother. She begins acting strangely. And that is when things begin to kind of unravel. It's kind of a slow burn at first, but it has an ending that is absolutely brutal. And I highly recommend it. If anybody who has a sensitive stomach may not want to watch it, but if you can stomach it, it is fantastic.
It's on my watch list, so no, I
Very
gotta go
good.
watch it. Yeah.
Is it a kids get vicious situation? You don't have to spoil anything.
It is a kids are worried about their mother and become defensively vicious, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Word. Kids get vicious is one of my like favorite horror movie tropes. It started early with Children of the Corn. But there have been several kids get vicious things that I was really into. The Descent also stuck with me. I also recommend watching it in a dark room because I watched it in like my grandparents' attic, you know, with like the blanket over my head because I wasn't supposed to be watching TV. But my partner and I, we, you know, occasionally we'll go on cave trips and stuff. And if you've never been to a show cave or, you know, any kind of cave tour, one thing that they will always do 100% of the time is they will let you experience total darkness. And while that is super fun the first time you do it, it is not fun after any point that you have watched The Descent. There was one that we did in like Indiana, I think, and it was an underwater or an underground river tour. And so it was like this tiny little rinky-dink boat. I do a lot of rinky-dink things. And it's very much like Gollum's cave down there, and they cut the lights and you're just kind of like drifting in the water. And I was like, this is it. This is how I go. And my partner is always looking at the tours that we do, and he's like, hey, they have options for spending the night in the cave, and hey, they've got a spelunking thing. I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Mhm.
I have no interest in that.
Same. No desire.
Yeah, strong pass.
Yeah.
Cool. Moving right along. Scary rejects. So these were things we did not communicate before the show about things that we put on this list. And some obviously, because I see one of Stratton's picks on here. I see my picks on here. So, yeah, Madeline, go ahead and slam the things that you don't like.
So I think I put just about every single one of these up here except Talk to Me, which I am already upset about because I really want to see that.
Oh, sorry. That was
It's
me.
fine. Hey, yeah. I'll be interested to see why you think it's a reject. But for me, I do not like torture for torture's sake or excessive gore. It doesn't make me queasy. I'm not interested in it. I don't think it really like progresses a storyline. And I feel like a lot of these don't have storylines of any real nature. Terrifier, I tried to watch it and I was like, this is awful. um, Same for Saw. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it definitely has a different feel, obviously. 70s and 80s horror films just hit different. So I understand and appreciate it, but it is not for me. I also put Walking Dead on there because while I liked it at first, I just got tired. I got tired of the characters. I feel like it should have been a significantly shorter series, and I wasn't too thrilled with the graphic novel. I put The Thing on there because it happens very early on in the movie, but there is a scene with a dog, and I do not want my cuddly animals involved in horrendous things unless it is Pet Cemetery because I love that movie.
Obviously,
So do I.
Yeah.
Pet Cemetery gets a pass.
And Malignant was extremely cheesy. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. So yeah, I put pretty much all of these up there. So those are my rejects. Madeline's rejects.
The Saw movies for me, so they were actually on my favorites. I have seen every single Saw movie in theaters, and I try to go on opening night so that I don't hear anything about it. There is just something that gets my soul about the last 5 minutes of the movie whenever it starts dropping like here's what was actually going on, and it's not Shyamalan, but like here's some Shyamalan, and that music fires up, dun dun dun, don't, and I'm in the back, let's go, like, I live for it. Some of them do get kind of dumb, not gonna lie, but the Saw movies have taught me a new thing that I'm afraid of with every single one. I did not know that I was afraid of pork processing plants. I did not know that I was afraid of needles. And I wasn't afraid of freezing in a freezer. If any of that is spoiling Saw movies for you at home, I sincerely apologize. You've had a decade. My reject contribution was Hostel. So I struggle with the torture for torture's sake. I almost didn't put this one on here because I like the premise of Hostel. I think that the concept of super rich people paying to do things to people, I don't know if it's feasible, but I know that it comes up in enough iterations of horror and thrillers. The Hunt is about rich people hunting people for sport. What is it called? Deadliest Catch? No, that's a fish. Most Dangerous Game, something like that. Anyway, the people hunting people is a trope that I do find interesting, but the nastiness of Hostel, that's a nasty movie. Like, I feel like I needed to go to the health department after I watched that movie because it's just so gross. Like, it's just like you can look at it and it feels sticky and dirty, and gritty, and I need a shower. I can't. And I agree with you about Walking Dead. I'm currently in an impasse in my household because I am a Daryl Dixon fan. I stand for Norman Reedus in everything he does. I recently watched a space movie he was in. It had like 14 lines in the whole film, and the premise was really dumb. And it just proves that I will watch Norman Reedus like plant a garden for hours and be completely entertained. But like, I can't watch The Walking Dead Daryl without suffering through season 100 of something that I lost interest in last decade. So yeah, I do think that Texas Chainsaw Massacre has some merit though, especially the OG, because their special effects were so limited then that like you can kind of believe some of that violence because
Absolutely.
like maybe people did get hurt filming that. Stratton, what was your did you have
my only one was Talk to Me, and I know I'm in the minority. It's gotten rave reviews all over the place. It just fell flat for me, and maybe it requires a second watch. I think maybe I was overly hyped before I watched it, but I went to the theater, saw it by myself, expecting to be horrified, and I kept on waiting, and it just never happened. The story was good. It about halfway through though, it takes a turn, and it just did not keep me interested personally. But I will watch it again at some point, and maybe Home Alone. It'll be a different experience.
maybe you should watch it with friends. Like I think your common thread there is that you're watching it by yourself. We can have a watch party. It'll be great. Yeah. It'll be great. I'll bring snacks. Cool. So our next category is spooky. So scary is very subjective. For spooky, we kind of went with like ghosty, spirity, atmospheric type stuff. Webster says spooky is sinister or ghostly in a way that causes fear and unease. So no Caspers. Easily frightened or nervous. So for my picks, again, I had to pack as much as I could on the slide because ghosty stuff is my jam. So some of these are not strictly ghosty. Bones and All I put in spooky because it's a very spooky premise. So it stars Timothy Chalamet, who falls under the Norman Reedus category of I would watch him organize a pantry. But the premise there is that there are people and they are called eaters, and they have this insatiable desire to consume, and that gets cannibally. And if the trailer for this is usually in scary movie trailers, they give away way too much, and so I just don't watch them. But this one, the only bit from the trailer is the lead character. She's at a sleepover and they're like painting nails or something, and she just takes a chunk out of somebody's thumb. And I was like, yes, that's it, sold. And so I went and rented it for free from the library. Renting a movie is just it's stuck in my lexicon. But yeah, it's great. It's the charming tale of two teenagers who share a dark secret, and they travel all over America looking for her mom. And it's just a cute little coming of age road trip story in parentheses while they eat people. So just spooky premise. They run into some other eaters who don't have the moral outlook that these two characters do. Did you hear what Eddie Gein done? Is also not strictly a ghost story. However, it is very representative of my fixation on serial killers. I'm not like pro serial killers. I don't consider myself a fan, but I do think that their psychology is very spooky and fascinating. Did you hear what Eddie Gein done? Is a graphic novel. It's another one that I just couldn't put down. Read it in one sitting. And it's the story of Ed Gein, who's a really creepy guy. He's actually who the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was based on. There have been a variety of media that derived from the Ed Gein story.
Psycho was based.
What's that?
Psycho was loosely based on his story.
Psycho also. Yeah, totally. Ghost Ship. I will claim millennial status on this one. Ghost Ship is one of the coolest, spookiest movies ever. It's kind
Best
of
opening ever.
What's that?
I said best opening ever.
Yes, absolutely.
I've never seen it.
Girl, watch party.
Watch it.
Yeah, next Nerd Talk, watch party. You'll just get to watch us watch films that you've already seen. Ghost Ship, total millennial classic. It they played it on Sci-Fi Channel just over and over and over again. It's kind of reminding of The Shining. There's a luxury cruise liner out in the ocean, and this like salvage crew goes out. Spooky things arise. It's fantastic. I've only been on a cruise ship once, and I thought about this film the entire time. I also thought about lots of large ocean creatures because I'm a thalassophobe. But 13 Ghosts also falls into that sci-fi reruns category that I just never got tired of. I don't think I can even give anything away about 13 Ghosts. It's kind of campy. The humor and the writing in it, not stellar, but the ghosts in it and the premise are really, really great. Penny Dreadful, watched the entire show in like 2 sittings. Pretty much had to intubate my food just while I watched it. Absolutely love Penny Dreadful. The second series, City of Angels, couldn't get into, but maybe I'll try it again. Mama is one of those, I'm going to put it in the Hereditary category of movies about children and mothers that made me cry in theaters that were actually supposed to be scary movies. I love the premise of Mama. The person who took me to see it swore that they would never go with me to a film again because they were so embarrassed because I'm just sobbing. It was so good a movie. Unintelligible, just full emotions. Haunting of Hill House. One of the reasons it's on here is I went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios 2 years ago, and Haunting of Hill House, it's the same, the people that made Bly Manor, that was after Hill House. It's based on a book by Shirley Jackson, and they it has a lot of triggers about like addiction and mental health and stuff like that. There are things that really get to me in ghost movies and stuff. But anyway, so I go to Universal Studios. I think that I'm a Halloween person, clearly, right? And I go to Universal Studios, and not only do I buy the Halloween Haunted Nights thing, I bought fast passes for it because I was like, they've got all these haunted houses, and I'm going to go to every one. And right now, my partner is watching this show from home and cackling because what happened is we get to Halloween Haunted Nights, and I had been to like Fright Fest at Six Flags before. No big deal. I go into Universal not thinking these are the people who created horror movies, and they do it much better than Six Flags Over Georgia. And so they had a couple of different haunted houses. One was a Beetlejuice house, and this was like 2021, so all their performers are behind like a glass situation because they don't want to commingle cooties. And so you could kind of see when a thing was coming because you could see the plexiglass. Okay, well, the Haunting Hill House one didn't have lights on. And so so we go in, and I'm holding on to my partner's coat, you know, with my hood, my head in the hood. And I was so frightened that there are people stationed throughout these haunted houses who work for Universal Studios, and everybody there works for Universal, but anyway, they're not costumed. They're in polos that say Universal Studios, and they have a flashlight so that if you have a cardiac event of some sort, they can pull you out and get you out. And those people in the corners were scaring me. I left that so tense. And anyway, my partner, somebody left a ha-ha react. How cruel. Pour my heart out to you, public. And anyway, my partner went through the remainder of the haunted houses, and I ate ice cream with some mom who paid for her teenagers to come here and had no interest in it. So we had a great time. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It turns out I'm a cute Halloween person. But yeah, I like to vicariously be scared at my house. Abnormal Statistics, short stories, all of them are weird. Please check it out. It's a fantastic book. Strong recommend. My partner just texted me and said that it was he who ha-ha'd. So we can have that watch party this evening because I'm not going home. All right. Madeline, go ahead.
All right. So, for the spooky ones, I chose things that I loved the atmosphere for. So, first one at the top is the movie The Others with Nicole Kidman in it. Um, that one, if you haven't seen it, it is very it is very spooky. There are a couple of jump scares, some that I still think about when I watched it when I was younger. Um, I love just how beige that movie is. I apparently really like beige horror movies. um, I
I
think
see that. I see
they
that now.
yeah, I didn't mean that, but I'm noticing it. So that one was one that I saw when I was younger, and it really stuck with me. I'm gonna try not to take up this whole slide with a conversation about how everyone should watch Midnight Mass on Netflix. It is a limited series, and I have watched it twice. And whenever I recommend it to people, I wish that I could watch it with them as if I had never seen it. It is the best, well done Netflix series I have seen. The premise of it, small island, newcomers, family drama, a lot of other really creepy things with kind of like a, I don't want to give away any of the spoilers for it, but it has one of the a jump scare in it that legitimately terrified me. It's it was a very quick change. Um, I'm not really a jump scare person, but this one made me accidentally hit my partner in the head with my water bottle because I jumped so bad. Um,
Which do you remember which episode that was?
oh gosh, no, I can't remember which episode, but it was
I was so upset with myself about Midnight Mass because, like, I guessed a lot of the premise in the first episode, but it was
yeah.
because I was watching the American Horror Story double feature at the
Mhm.
same time, and they were kind of running parallel, and I was like, I think this is another that.
Yeah,
So
and
let me ask
go
you a
ahead.
question real quick because I don't want to spoil it for anybody else, but it was partially spoiled for me before I watched the first episode, and I watched the first episode, loved it. Um, will the fact that I know something will it ruin the rest of it for me?
No, no. I think it's just it's a beautiful series. And everything top to bottom is great. Um,
It's got a lot of
even
depth. It
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 does.
really does have a lot of depth.
And
I
there's
appreciate that about it.
exactly, and that's one of the things that I love so much about that spooky element is there it's just how it makes you feel. There's this underlying unease, and that goes throughout the entire series. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Definitely watch it if you have the opportunity. Also on here, I've got The Witch, another beige film. Um, I love that the Black Phillip character, Goat, has come into the scene and asking people if they would like to live deliciously. It is a creepy movie. I showed it at the library last year, and I had people come out and they were like, that was very interesting. And I'm like, yes, it was. Thank you for coming. um, so, a good witch movie, very spooky, slow burn, beautiful film. And then along the bottom here, I've got The Shining as one of my top 10.
Oh
I
wait,
watched.
this is Misery. I thought I was wearing The Shining. I'm not. Forget
No,
it.
it's fine. But The Shining, I love both the film and the book because one of them is very clearly Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and then one of them is very obviously Stephen King's The Shining.
Have
I
you
can
seen the
appreciate.
mini series that Steve put out though?
I don't think
So
so.
so Steve hated the Kubrick movie.
Oh yeah,
Hated it.
hated it.
And so he goes and EPs his own Shining miniseries. You will need approximately 3 years to watch it, because he was like, every inch of this book is important to include. It takes 15 forevers. You will, in fact, feel as if you have been trapped inside the Stanley Hotel. We recently watched the Shining movie while we were quarantined with COVID on like day 6 of being trapped in the house. Do not recommend for authenticity, but yeah, the miniseries, you should definitely commit a year of your life to checking it out.
I'll have to do that. Okay, next is Rosemary's Baby. Again, I like it for the same reason that I like the Shining book and film. But it is the closest screen adaptation of any book that I've read and seen the movie, which is very hard to do. Rosemary's Baby, again, creepy parent-child relationship, very atmospheric, very unsettling. One of the best endings of any movie. I mean, I love it so much. I've got a tattoo of Rosemary's Baby. Like, it's been with me for a really, really long time. It's one of the first horror movies I can really remember seeing. And I watch it all the time. I just think it's absolutely stellar. If you haven't seen it, give it a watch. And then another comparison that I have on the slide is The Wicker Man and Midsummer. A lot of people, Midsummer came out a couple of years ago, and I think a lot of
It's
people.
so great.
It is great, and it's a beautiful film.
Mm-hmm.
The cinematography, the coloration, the soundtrack, the special effects, the practical. It's top to bottom an amazing film, but I think a lot of times people see it as very derivative of The Wicker Man. And yes, it is pretty much the exact same story, but I think they both stand as two amazing films. I love The Wicker Man, the original, not the one with what's his face.
Not the Nick Cage?
No,
What?
not Nick Cage.
Oh
Get
my
out.
goodness.
All y'all can
No.
get out. I'm about to log out.
No, you're
Probably
not,
do.
because you want to talk about stupid movies. And
Yes, I
so
do. So I see a lot of comparisons with them, obviously, but they are two powerhouse films. Watch them
Florence
together.
Pugh is amazing.
Yeah, she's good. She's great. So yeah, I recommend watching those together or pretty close back to back when you see them, because they're both classics in my opinion. So
That's actually what I did. I watched Midsummer first,
Mhm.
and then I had to go back and watch The Wicker Man after that.
Yep.
I think it's really harsh when people say that something is derivative. Like even when it's the teenagers escaping a curse situation, like It Follows or Bye Bye Man or whatever. Like I think that they just fit into a subgenre. And so like derivative, I think would be like they did this, but then it was worse or halfway or stolen from in some way. But I don't think that those two, like, I see that they have a similar track, but I think it's just because they fit into that subgenre, which is really good. Midsummer and Hereditary both, again, cried in movies because
Yeah.
I'm just like eliminating any sort of, humanity I have here. But like Midsummer and Hereditary both, like, they do emotional breakdown so well. Like Hereditary, I had to take a lap. I had to go. I never go and get food and stuff, but I did. Because like just watching those actresses did pain so well, like emotional pain, not like,
Yeah.
gore pain, because it's really not gory
Tony
movies
Collette.
on either count.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Strong recommend. The Academy goes to Stratton. Terrified.
Yay. Okay. So Halloween first. This is Halloween is, I often say it's definitely my top 10, if not my favorite horror film. Um, it's just so great. The vibe throughout, it is super creepy. John Carpenter's soundtrack is just the best. Um, and I don't know what can you say about Halloween? It's just it's a it people consider it a slasher. I don't see it as a slasher. The sequels for sure, but Halloween itself is the original is a good. I feel like it's a good um, suspense thriller, and that's disguised as a horror film. And it really, there's very little gore. There's very little that you see, but the dread is there throughout the whole film, and it's just it's an almost perfect film for me. Um,
The things you like about it make me think that you didn't like the Rob Zombie interpretations.
no, I watch them and they are okay. Like I was watching the first one on television just the other day, but no, I don't love the backstory. I don't love the gore. I don't love that Michael talks in at least the second one. I don't know if he does in the first, but yeah,
I
no.
wasn't crazy about him either, which is like I didn't put any Rob Zombie on this specifically because I couldn't find any screen grabs that wouldn't get me uninvited to work at the library. But like I really love the Devil's Reject series. That's one of the most unsettling things ever. And so when I watched his Halloween interpretation, I was really bummed. I was really bummed about it.
Yeah, same. I mean, A for effort or kudos for trying or whatever, but yeah,
You
can't
did
touch the
things.
original. What'd you say?
I said you did a thing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. What else? Okay, so the story, the yellow wallpaper. Fantastic. It is about a woman in, I don't remember, I want to say it's the early 1900s. I don't remember for sure. Don't quote me on that. But it is about a woman who has gone to the country with her family for rest cure, for whatever they think is going on with her. It is about basically her descent into madness as she is trying to be treated for rest cure. Um, it is a genuinely creepy read, especially when you get to the final part, which I mean, I guess it's ambiguous. It could be a supernatural thing that's happening, or it could be she's going crazy. Regardless, it's just a super creepy read. I read it for the first time in college, um, many moons ago, and it still has stuck with me.
I don't know if it's a subconscious thing or what, but women think they're going crazy and you think they might be, but you're not super sure is also one of my favorite like horror movie subgenres. Like I live for asylum stuff, I live for gaslighting stuff. You know, I don't know. Maybe I need to work through that on my own. But like it really hits home and I love it. I love that subgenre so much.
Madeline, have you read it?
Yes, many moons ago.
Many moons
In
ago.
college. Yeah. It was great. I
Yep,
loved it.
same. Yep. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There are many adaptations. One starring Frederick Marsh, 19. Is it Frederick Marsh or March? I can't remember. From 1931 is my all-time favorite. What I love about this is that you see his character turning into, like, quite literally becoming a villain. At the same time, you feel for him, and you as he starts to lose control over his as far as when he changes, um, you start to feel for him. You start to dread it along with him. It's like, it's coming, but you can't stop it. You want to stop it, and I don't know. There's something about just the duality. There is
Those OG horror writers really nailed that.
Mhm.
The Mary Shelleys,
Mhm.
the Invisible Man, all of those, just they really wrote about the people being the problem, and they did
Mhm.
it so well.
They did. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, definitely give it a watch if you have not seen that particular one. It's so good. The Invitation is um, maybe a little bit rare. Have you guys seen it?
I have. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a hard time differentiating it from the menu in my head, but I have seen them both, and I
Oh,
liked them both.
okay. Yeah. The Invitation, again, the ending kind of clinched it for me. That it was a fantastic, fantastic ending. But I also love the entire story. You're going in with these characters who have been invited to a dinner party, and they they don't really know what's going on. Things start to unfold that are pretty weird, and you with them are trying to kind of guess what's happening. And as the story unfolds, it just gets more and more unnerving. And yeah, basically dinner party from hell.
I don't think I've seen that one. I have
It's
seen the
very,
menu, so I
yeah,
love the ending of the menu. So honorable mention there.
yeah.
The Invitation is more of a domestic,
Oh, okay.
whereas the menu is more of like a outside thriller hunt situation. But the Invitation is very good.
Mhm.
Okay.
Agreed. And then there were none. People would say it's not a horror book. I beg to differ. It was a genuinely creepy read throughout. It kept me guessing, and again, it's one of those that it came to this climax that I remember reading it, having goosebumps as I was reading, and reading horror or suspense doesn't usually do that to me, but this
Mm.
book was, I don't know what it is about Agatha Christie, but she was an amazing writer, and she really does spooky and creepy and eerie very well.
It's not spooky, creepy, or eerie, but if you want to do some research on your own about the history of that book, it's actually really interesting. They've had to change the title twice.
Yep.
Neither of the previous titles can I say on the internet while representing my employer.
Yep.
So it's a really interesting history, though, of just kind of like, here's what's going on in American acceptability. But anyway, continue. I
Yeah.
apologize.
No, no, that's it. That was basically it. And then I put Unsolved Mysteries, of course. That was my introduction to all things suspenseful, horror, true crime. I am big into true crime as well. And Unsolved Mysteries was really the genesis of that. The between the reenactments that were so well done to me, the music, Robert Stack's narration, his voice, just creepy, 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 creepy. I still cannot watch an episode at night of Unsolved Mysteries to this day.
I've never seen it, but my brain wants to put it in the same category as A Thousand Ways to Die, and I know that that's not accurate. I thought it would amuse you either way.
Absolutely not, but you should check it out for sure. The Robert Stack version.
Cool. So we didn't have a lot of spooky rejects. I think it's because we packed every spooky movie we could think of into our slides. My contributions were Tell Me I'm Worthless and The Blair Witch Project. Tell Me I'm Worthless is a haunted house story. It uh, it's real gross too. It really crosses. I'm not a person who's real particular about gross. As people who know me can attest, like usually the things that I'm interested in are kind of gnarly. But Tell Me I'm Worthless, man. It had a lot of really rough language in it. It deals a lot with some like internalized transphobia stuff. The language in it is just coarse and raw and not in a palpable way that I enjoyed. And then Blair Witch is just kind of indicative of a whole series of things I did not like. Shaky cam stuff just didn't do it for me. Live cam stuff, like I didn't have a problem with the Paranormal Activity. I didn't mind those because they weren't cameras going everywhere. But I don't want to have to take Dramamine before I watch a movie. It's just not something I want to do. And Blair Witch really kicked that off, and it stayed popular the entire time I was a teenager and young adult. And I'm very glad that we have moved on as a society and we don't do that no more. VHS is one that falls into that a lot of people haven't heard of, just because it wasn't great. But it at least had premise. It was like a short story compilation situation. I think they've had a new one come out this year. Hulu's really pushing them right now. But the story of it would be so much better if it was just done. Like Blair Witch is a fascinating story, but I just cannot get through, feeling like I'm inside of a washing machine while I'm watching it. So.
I guess I don't know, Stratton, did you put any up here for spooky rejects, or you just
I
love
did not.
everything?
I had none. Yeah.
I put The Haunting up here. I loved that movie when I was younger. I thought it was so scary and unsettling. I had a really hard time. Okay, so if you've ever seen it, there are like these cherubs that are on like the walls and the sconces, and they all turn and stuff. And like my grandmother had a whole bunch of like ornate stuff with cherubs on it. So I would go in her house and be like, I can't look at that. So scared me as a child. I tried to watch it last year or the year before, and I was like, I liked this. This is embarrassing. So it does not hold up to its spooky nature. But what's funny is I actually just finished listening to The Haunting of Hill House, which is what The Haunting is, based on. It's actually a really good page to screen adaptation, but it's still a really bad movie. So that's been an interesting take for me. I don't know how that happened, but maybe just read the book and don't watch the movie. That's it for me.
Cool. So slightly silly. These, I think we all kind of had different interpretations of what a slightly silly one might be. So I'm really excited to get into these. Webster says it's having or showing a lack of common sense or judgment, absurd and foolish. I don't know if these really fit that. I do think that some of these films reflect a lack of common sense and judgment. And I think that some of them definitely lean towards absurd and foolish. But I don't know. I didn't gel well with that description, but I was able to find some things that I kind of felt like fit what I thought was a slightly silly, spooky, scary October. I'm going to do it in October. So I guess I'm going to go chronological. So Shaun of the Dead, really silly, kind of a spoof zombie movie. I love Simon Pegg in most things he does. They're in England, and there's a zombie outbreak, and it's zombie light. It's very humorous. There's a lot of one-liners. It's kind of the first of those Simon Pegg movies that really blew him up. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. You've Got Red on You is something that me and my siblings shout at each other anytime that we have something on our shirt. So it just became part of our lexicon so quickly. House of Wax. Don't really care what anybody thinks about it. I thought it was great. It was my first introduction to Jared Padalecki from Supernatural. Paris Hilton is in it for a moment. And it was just, it's one of those few teenagers have to figure it out situations that I actually liked. the premise is that they are on a road trip. They get, they're headed to like some big Super Bowl, sports ball, something. I don't know. I work at a library, and they go they take a detour, car breaks down, whatever. They go to the next town for help, and there's a wax museum, and it's a super realistic wax museum, and you proceed to find out why. Absolutely loved it. I would put it in the same category as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, honestly, for me, because it's a little bit of disfigurement and isolation from society, and now I run this town, and you are an intruder, and here's what I do with intruders. Loved it. Thank you.
Vincent Price's House of Wax is one of my favorite.
I love that movie so much.
Yeah, I don't know why I bypassed some Vincent Price, but man, that movie is so great. So,
I had a teacher in high school, and we watched all of the Vincent Price Poe adaptations, and it was just, Miss Keaton, if you still watch, it stuck with me. English teachers are terribly important for a librarian's development. Warm Bodies. It's another zombie movie. It's real stupid. There's like a human faction, and the story is told from the monologue of a zombie. And it's kind of, I don't know how we got here. I'm really bored. I hang out in this airport all day. Like, I need some sort of stimulation. And then, a love story develops. Not as crucial, but super cool. Cabin in the Woods. Love the premise. It's real stupid. Cabin in the Woods. It's another teenagers get lost situation. Except this one, there's like this undercurrent of, I don't want to give anything away. It's a great movie. Give it a shot. I would put it in Shyamalan light, even though it's not a Shyamalan.
I would agree with that.
Because there's a pretty big twist to it.
Yeah.
Renfield is one that Madeline got me to watch recently. It also has Nicholas Hoult in it. He's the same guy from Warm Bodies. Renfield is the story of Renfield, of henchman fame, and it's really a story about narcissism, and I just ate it up. Speaking of eating up, Eat the Rich. It's a graphic novel, cute little read. It says what it is. There's really nothing to get into there. It's kind of flipped on its head from the rich people hunting poor people thing that we talked about a couple slides ago. Don't Fear the Reaper is the most recent installment by Stephen Graham Jones. If he ever comes across my videos, he will be very upset that I put his book in silly. He's a huge slasher fan. He's super cool dude. I met him at another library a couple years ago, and he's written some that like really chilled me to the bone, like Mongrels and The Only Good Indians. Those are generally chilling, but Don't Fear the Reaper is a second installment in a trilogy. The third book's supposed to come out next year. And you're following Jade Daniels, and she is obsessed with slasher movies. She got kicked out of her high school. She starts seeing all of these trends in her town that lead her to believe that a slasher event is afoot. And Don't Fear the Reaper is the follow-up to the afooting. And then Tusk. So I struggle to even put, I popped Tusk around to all three of my categories because I just couldn't decide. Tusk is a Kevin Smith movie. He doesn't do a lot of sketch horror type stuff. It stars Justin Long. And God, I don't want to give anything away, man, but those last 5 minutes of it stay with me. I hear that stuff in my dreams. They are not good dreams, but I hear it all the same. It's kind of a goofy premise. It's got some goofy bits in it. Johnny Depp is a uncredited, just campy, horrible sleuth. And it's really good. So Justin Long, his character is Haley Joel Osment and Justin Long in the movie. They have a podcast together, and they go to different places around the country and interview people who are like ridiculous that they encounter. So Justin Long finds this letter on a corkboard outside of a bathroom, and it says like, hey, I used to be this world traveler, and I've got this sick mansion and all this stuff, but like I don't have anybody to talk to, so if you'll just come and hang out with me, like I'd really appreciate it, and I may or may not compensate you for your time, and it's nothing creepy, just like, I'm just a lonely old man, and I've had all these adventures, not have anybody to tell about them. And then Justin Long doesn't get to leave that dude's house. The end. So it's got a lot of body horror in it. It's not very gory at all. But when it takes a turn for the worst, it really does turn you on your head, because you're not expecting it to go the way that it does. And that's all I'm telling you about it. Don't Google it. Just check it out.
I have to tell you, I've never had a desire to watch it, but I do now. So
please do, because I'm so curious what you're going to think of it.
Okay.
Some people take it as a really stupid movie, but there are parts about it that really stay with me. So yeah.
I don't love Justin Long, so I've stayed away from it.
He's not very Justin Longy in this one. He is not very Justin Longy at all, and he actually doesn't have an awful lot of lines in it, and that's all you get to know. The end.
All right, here are my silly picks. I've got Grady Hendrix. I think you could put any of his books up here and they would have some silly elements in them. But this one in particular, sister and brother are trying to sell their parents' house. But the mom collected and had a puppet show that she ran, so there are puppets and dolls all in the house, and as the title suggests, the house is haunted. So the main puppet, his name is Pupkin, and he terrified me and cracked me up. So if it can do both, that's absolutely perfect for me. I'm not a huge fan of funny horror, so it has to be done either very well or make fun of itself in the process. Like Young Frankenstein or Frankenstein. Just one of my favorite movies growing up. The humor in it is just unmatched. You don't get to see a lot of humor like that anymore. And there's
Frau Brucher.
I know.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
My favorite is Igor, the character. And
walk this way.
He's walked this way, and they're like, they're walking. No, not that way, this way. And
do you say Frodrick?
It cracks me up. And then with his face, put the candle back. Those are like some of my favorite scenes.
Abby, someone. It's so good.
So there are all these little parts of it that just as a whole make it such a great movie. And another one in that same vein, Mel Brooks is Dracula Dead and Loving It. I didn't put that one up here, but man, that some of the jokes and humor don't exactly hold up in modern days, but a lot of it still is very funny. I love slapstick, and I think that those films both have a lot of that element in it. Another slapstick would be Ernest Scared Stupid. I loved and hated this movie as a kid. It has one of the scariest monsters in it. If you haven't seen it, the troll character
he's like a potato with legs.
He is grotesque. disgusting. And
I'm
they're
Googling it right now.
man, it's bad. So there's one scene, and I encourage you to watch it on YouTube. As soon as you finish with our lovely video, it is the scene in Ernest Scared Stupid where the girl looks under the bed. I still have nightmares about that one. But
You know,
it was
it's weird because like Don't Look Under the Bed gets to me still. Like it popped up on my Disney Plus the other day,
yeah.
and you know, my niece and nephew were over, and they were like, "Oh, what's that? Can we watch that one?" And I was like, "No, we
No,
cannot. Like,
no.
absolutely not."
And I think that's the best part about this. You know, we're gonna say genre, whatever, of funny, you know, horror films is that we do oftentimes see these when we're young, and I think that's why they stick with us so much. I don't really, like I said, I don't really like the funny horror genre, but a lot of them, I can see elements of things that I watched when I was a kid as to why I like the ones today. Like I have What We Do in the Shadows on there. I love the movie. I love the series. It is hilarious. I have laughed at every single episode of that series, and there have been 5 seasons. If I'm upset, I go and watch one episode called The Baron's Night Out. It is the funniest episode of anything I have ever seen. If I'm in a bad mood, I'm sad, I'm upset, I will watch that and I will laugh. Um, Another one that I watch as kind of a comfort thing is Are You Afraid of the Dark? I'm doing a big
Yes.
rewatch on that. And it's just so warm and nostalgic for me. I watched it every Saturday night with my mom, and then as soon as that went off, we turned over to Tales from the Crypt.
Oh,
So now you
yes.
know exactly what kind of household I was raised in. um, so watching those are just very nostalgic for me. And then I have some newer ones that I've come into. I've seen all of the Evil Dead films, but this one is from the Still in the Middle. It's him with his hand out. He's fighting his hand, and again, slapstick.
Which one
But
is that from?
Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
And he's fighting his hand that is possessed, and that one has a lot of slapstick, you know, humor in it as well. So I think that's why I really enjoyed that movie. And then a new favorite of mine, I love holiday horror. If it's a Christmas movie set with like something horrific, I'm eating it up with a spoon. Silent Night, Deadly Night, amazing film. And Chopping Mall is really good. I like to watch that one around like the Thanksgiving, Christmas rush of shopping. Those two are really great, but I also love Krampus. That's a great movie. Any of the holiday horror films, basically anything from October through Christmas. They just they make me laugh. They're creepy. Um, so I really love them. Silent Night, Deadly Night has a couple of my favorite kills in it. So yeah, that one I watch. I watch it every Christmas. Such a heartwarming film.
Have you watched Black Christmas?
I think so. Yeah.
It is one of the dumbest things ever, but man, it got to me.
Yeah.
I'm watching it and I'm like, I know this is camp, and then there's this one bit that I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I'm scared now.
Yeah. There are some that are very unsettling that I didn't include on here, but Chopping Mall and Silent Night, Deadly Night are probably the silliest of the ones that I've enjoyed.
Cool. Stratton, bring us home.
My turn. Okay, so I love werewolf movies. I just love werewolves. I love transformations, all of that. So I included An American Werewolf in London and The Howling. Both of them, they both are. I would consider them. Well, American Werewolf more than The Howling is definitely a comedy horror to me, and so that's
Yes.
where the silly comes in. It's definitely it doesn't. None of these films on my list take themselves too seriously. Um, American Werewolf in London has the best subway chase scene or tube chase scene, I would say. Um, featuring a werewolf, of course. It has a fantastic transformation scene, but again, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's lighthearted, so it's not. It's a comfort movie for me. It's a lot of these on my list of slightly silly are films that I can watch over and over again, that I can fall asleep to, if I'm sick, these are good, like, comfort movies for me. So Howling, again, maybe not as humorous as American Werewolf, but it has its moments, and for me, that is the best werewolf transformation scene in film, period.
That
Uh,
Stratton, that's what I was gonna say is the difference between American Werewolf in London and The Howling, the transformation scenes. I feel like American Werewolf picks up all of the accolades, but that transformation in The Howling is
so
it's good. It's
so
good.
good. Yeah, and I will not spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but watch it. So good. What else? Fright Night. Have you guys seen Fright Night?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I don't like it. It makes my skin crawl. It's like
Why?
it's a stranger danger situation. It makes me uneasy.
Well, that's vampires for you. That's inviting
Yeah.
vampires into your house.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's for me, it's a fantastic movie. I don't watch a lot of vampire horror. This was right up my alley, though. I love Roddy McDowall in it. I love his portrayal of, like, I don't know, kind of a has-been horror, old school horror TV host who has to kind of save the day, and it turns his luck around. I like the character Evil. I think he is super creepy throughout the movie, whether he is a vampire or just a high school teenager. And I don't know, it's just it's a cute vampire movie for me. Creep is one of those. It's, I think, the only found footage film that I put in on any of my lists. Found footage, a videographer is hired to follow a guy around in his house, and crazy things happen after that. And it's one of those where it goes kind of back and forth. You never know whether what's coming up is going to be scary or funny, and that's part of what draws me in, is you don't know what to expect, and it both is unnerving, but it's what keeps me drawn into it. What else do I have in here? Death Becomes Her is one of my favorite movies of all times. It is
Perfect.
the effects are just, when I first watched this in the 90s, I was astounded. As a kid, I was astounded by the special effects. I thought they were just fantastic, and the acting. Come on, Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn. It is just it's hilarious. It is also creepy in parts. And for Addams Family, that I would say that is, along with Unsolved Mystery, that is one of the films that was my introduction to the horror genre. Even though it's not a horror movie, it takes horror elements, it makes them funny, it makes them cozy, but
it really softens creepy kid aesthetic to make it a little more palatable.
It does.
Which I really liked. And I really loved how much everyone threw a fit over the Wednesday series, because it was like, I knew you were weird this whole time. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then last but certainly not least, Scream. Madeline, do you have anything to say?
No, I don't have anything to say.
Come on.
It's not my favorite. I just don't think it's a horror film. I think it's a teeny bopper film.
I think it is a teeny bopper
It's on my
horror
shirt.
film. Oh, there you go. No, I think it's. I mean, it's definitely a satire. It definitely, again, doesn't take to itself too seriously. It is spoofing the horror genre to an extent. What makes it legitimately horror to me is Nev Campbell. I think her acting is fantastic. She plays a scared but strong, final girl character brilliantly. It takes between besides her and Jamie Lee Curtis, there are not a lot of films like Halloween, like Scream, where the main character, that final girl, is super likable to me, or that final survivor, whoever, whatever their gender or whatever. But I think Nev Campbell really is what sold me on the horror bit of it. But it's a good movie. It's, again, one of those that I can watch over and over again.
All right, so rejects. Here is Scream again. Actually, in a kind of twice, honestly, because one of the things about Scary Movie that I hate, I grew up, I'm a 90s kid, and I was also a 90s kid who didn't have a television. So lots of times things that were happening where, around my peers or my friends or at school or whatever, were like references to things that I just didn't get and were very stupid. And if I hear another person for the rest of my life shout, "What's up?"
I knew that's where
Oh God.
Because, okay, but like you knew it in context. And I just think everybody around me is a moron. You know what I mean? Like I was not in on the joke. And I was just like, God, why? So when I finally do get around to watching Scary Movie, I was just like, oh, everyone I know is so much, this is worse. This is worse dumb. So yeah, I just can't do it. And I don't know if I'm the one that put Nope on here or not, but that one was just it was a real letdown for me.
It was you, and I second that wholeheartedly.
Third, yeah.
Yeah, I loved Get Out, and I loved Us, and I went into Nope, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to party, and it just wasn't great.
It was a letdown for sure.
It really was. It was not the expectation that he had set with his other projects. So I don't remember if I'm the one that put Child's Play on there or not, but whoever did it, especially if it was me, I'd agree resoundingly.
I'm glad you agree with yourself, Sam.
Right.
It's important to, according to licensed professionals. But Child's Play, just absolutely not something I can sit through for various reasons, but it just, I don't know. It's dumb, but it does take itself too seriously. So yeah, those are my shades to throw.
What's the other one? Zombieland?
Yeah, who put Zombieland?
I put that on there. I forgot. Just like you, I don't know if I put Child's Play on there. Yeah, I put Zombieland on there. It's just, I saw it in the movie theater. I'm not a horror fan. I mean, I'm not a zombie movie horror fan, and it was just too silly for me. Wasn't Bill Murray in that one at one point?
Yeah, briefly.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe Bill Murray is the only thing I liked about it. So yeah.
See, I love Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg. He plays Jesse Eisenberg everything he's in, and I love it. I don't just fawn over Emma Stone like most people do, but I liked it. I thought it was a cute little movie. Rock and roll. So I think that's every movie that we wanted to jam about. We went just gratuitously over on time. So thank you to the two viewers who stuck with. We appreciate you, Cody and
we
Dustin.
love you.
So I do want to take just a second to pitch some of our other October programs, because the library does spooky season huge here. This weekend on Sunday, the library is throwing its 40th birthday party. So be sure you check that out. 80s jams, wine coolers, etc. Should be a hopping good time, or whatever they said in the 80s. My mother was 9, so I wasn't there.
I heard a rumor that someone's going to be there teaching the Thriller dance, and I cannot wait.
Word. That's what's up. Let's see. The next thing that you can see my face on is I'm doing a book club. We'll be talking about Grady Hendrix's Southern Book Club to Slaying Vampires. That's going to be Thursday the 19th over at the Lee Branch location of East 59. Should be a lot of fun. Come and eat some crullers with me. On the 20th, where Madeline and I are throwing the first annual adult Halloween party for the Hoover Library. It's Cirque de Bibliothèque. We're gonna take over the plaza. We've got costume contests, mocktails. We're gonna have some carnival games. We're gonna have a lot of snacky snacks. We're also gonna have performances by Lumen Arts Entertainment, which I'm super excited about. And yeah, come hang out with us. It'll be a great time. And those are what I have going on. Madeline, talk to us about your movies.
Yeah, so I am doing a film series called Undead, Undead, Undead. I am showing vampire films. Last night I just showed Interview with the Vampire. Next week we've got Lost Boys. Then it's Dark Shadows. What was next? Bram Stoker's Dracula, and rounding out with Renfield, which Sam had on her slides. So those are going to be Monday nights in October, obviously, 6:30 p.m. in the Library Theater. Free popcorn, drinks, candy. Come on out and watch a movie with me.
Cool. Awesome. Stratton, what do you got going on? You partying with us?
Yeah, whatever.
Stratton will be available. So most of the things that we've talked about tonight, you can get with your library card, totally free. Some of this stuff's on Hoopla, some of it's on Canopy, some of it's right here in our movies department. A lot of these books you can put on hold and check out. And if you spot any of us, we are super happy to talk other creepy things with you. So stop by, give us a chat, throw us a thumbs up, share our video, and we'll see you soon. Keep it spooky, y'all.